How's it going, guys? My name is Jason and I am one of the co-founders of SWAT English Academy here in the Gangnam district of Seoul, South Korea. I've been an English educator for over 15 years, and I'm here today with 3 tips to help you guys with your vocabulary memorization for test-taking purposes. This will also work for any type of rote memorization that you guys need for your standardized tests at school. So let's rock and roll. All right, so now we're gonna take a look at our 3 tips for vocab memorization, and in order to do that, we're actually gonna take a look at one of the vocab lists that we give our 4th grade students here at SWAT English Academy. If you take a look at the list, it's 18 words. Some of them are pretty difficult. It includes their parts of speech as well as definitions. Now, tip number 1 is very simple and possibly the most important one. It is break it down. Break down this list of 18 words into manageable parts. There's a great quote by the author Mark Twain that says, "The secret to getting ahead is getting started. The secret to getting started is to break down your complex, overwhelming task into small, manageable tasks, and starting with the first one." So what a donkey does is they're gonna take these 18 words and they're just gonna try to study them all at once and memorize everything. This is ridiculous. Now, unless you're a genius, you'll be able to do that effectively, but believe me, once you get to the higher levels of academic study, especially in South Korea, it's gonna be nearly impossible. There's just too much to memorize. So break it down. We've got 18 words. We can make 3 groups of 6, or we can make 6 groups of 3. So for the sake of simplicity, let's just go with 6 groups of 3 words here. So instead of studying all 18 words in one day, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna study 3 words in one day, and at the end of the week, I should have this list mastered. So step number 1 is break down the task. Anytime you see a large list of something, break it down into small, manageable parts and master 1 per day. In order to do this, you're gonna need discipline. Discipline is gonna be the key, and this is the thing that most students have difficulty with. I cannot help you with this. You have to find it within yourselves to discipline yourselves the same way people find the discipline to work out, eat a healthy diet, etc. You guys are gonna need to find the discipline to break down your tasks and be diligent about it and go through each one of your tasks each day. So that part I can't help you with, but the actual tip is to break it down. That is up to you, and it's an absolute must. All right, so for tip number 2, it's simplify the material. What you don't want to do is memorize everything as it is on the paper. That's a donkey move. You're not a dictionary. It makes it a lot more difficult to memorize the entire definition as it's written. For example, the first word on our list is scale, and it says to climb up or over something high and steep. You don't need all that. Just to scale is to climb, right? Just keep it simple. I think there's an English acronym, KISS, keep it simple, stupid. Same thing goes for vocab memorization, guys. The second word is dormant. It says not active or growing, but having the ability to be active at a later time. Okay, so don't worry about that. Just dormant means inactive, all right? Inactive or in a resting state. Whenever you're memorizing long lists, guys, you need to keep the information simple and focus only on the essential. Do not try to memorize everything as it is written on the piece of paper or the textbook. That is not going to be very effective. Simplify the material, focus only on the essential. That is tip number 2. Now, the last tip and the most important process of vocabulary memorization or any sort of rote memorization is self-quizzing. Self-quizzing is the review, the actual studying part of the exercise. Now, this is the place where most kids actually fail, or they're very ineffective or inefficient. The number 1 method I see is they'll open their books and they're just gonna read the information. That's how they're trying to memorize it. They're just reading the information over and over again until they absorb it. Guys, this is ridiculous. The definition of memorization is to recall information that is not present in front of you. That's what memory is. So if you have the information in front of you, you're actually not memorizing anything. What you're doing is you're reading. And it's gonna take you a lot longer to memorize something when you have the information in front of you. So what do I encourage my kids to do? I encourage my kids to do creative things like make acronyms. So for example, the first 3 words on our list are scale, dormant, invader, SDI. If I wanna switch the order a little bit, I can make SID, SID, scale, invader, dormant, scale, invader, dormant, scale, invader, dormant. Repeat the words over and over again. Too many times students focus on the definitions. Guys, the word is the important part. Memorize the word first. Scale, invader, dormant. Scale is to climb, dormant is inactive, etc. You're gonna memorize this over and over again, and you're going to repeat it out loud. I cannot tell you guys at home how many times I have to encourage my kids, and even their parents. English is a language. So if you're studying at home, your parents shouldn't see you studying. They should hear you studying. You don't study a language by just looking at words or letters on a piece of paper. You actually have to speak them out loud. So get used to hearing your own voice. When you're memorizing a list, you need to be speaking these things out loud constantly. Scale, invader, dormant. Scale, invader, dormant. Go through the definitions. Now, if you are pretty good at that, or with practice you become very good at that, another tip I would give is try to make sentences that use these words in context. And what I mean by that is you're making sentences where the meaning of the word is sort of implied or inferred in the sentence. Once you read that sentence, you can pretty much guess what that word means. So an example sentence that I have, and when you get really good at it, what you can do is you can actually link all of the words in one sentence. So an example sentence I wrote for you guys says, the invaders scaled the dormant volcano knowing it wouldn't erupt. One more time, the invaders scaled the dormant volcano knowing it wouldn't erupt. Now, in that sentence, you could probably infer the definition of dormant, and you could probably infer the definition of scaled. The only one that might be difficult is invaders. But you know what? I think most kids would have a pretty easy time knowing what an invader is. After all, Korea was invaded by our North Korean neighbors back in 1950. So we know what that word means. So try to simplify things and make sentences that use these words in context. And then don't just make it, don't just write it on a piece of paper. Say it out loud over and over again. Your parents should be seeing you walking around the kitchen saying these sentences out loud. Now, the last part of self-quizzing is one that kids often forget, is you actually need to give yourself time to forget what you've studied. So allow some time to pass. Once you're confident, you're like, okay, scale, invader, dormant. I know these words, I know how to spell them, I know their definitions. Then do something else. Go play some Nintendo Switch. Go watch some TV, go eat something, go text message your friends. Take your mind off the material, then come back to it after some time has passed, maybe 1, 2, 3 hours later. And then say, what were those 3 words again? Scale, invader, dormant. The self-quizzing process takes place throughout the day. I have a rule called the good night, good morning rule, meaning the last thing you do before you go to sleep is go through your list. Go through your words and your definitions and your sentences. Go to sleep, and the first thing you do when you wake up the next morning is go through that list. Go through your words, the definitions, and your sentences. If you can do that, if you can recite everything perfectly before you go to sleep, and then you can recite everything perfectly immediately on the wake up 8, 10 hours later, there's a good chance you've got them locked in your long-term memory and you're ready to rock and roll. All right, guys, so those are the 3 tips I want you to remember for any type of rote memorization, especially memorizing vocabulary lists. Number 1, break down the task into manageable groups. Number 2, keep it simple. Simplify the information. Focus only on the essential. And number 3, and the most important one probably, is self-quizzing. So these are 3 tips to help you guys memorize lists a lot faster, a lot more efficiently, and in a more disciplined manner. If you guys would like any information regarding SWAT Academy, that information should be in the description down below. Please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe and all that YouTube stuff. Thanks for coming along on this journey, guys. I will see you again with more tips.